And to me, the thing is even if we have good digestion, we want it to be better, right?
True.
It's one of those things that we want to optimize as much as we possibly can. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I always like to kind of talk about is the process of digestion. Because a lot of times when we think digestion, we think, well, it doesn't bother me. I don't bloat. I don't get, I don't get reflux. I don't, I don't get any of that stuff. I have good digestion. Mm-hmm. And so if we break it down to the process, the question I love asking people is, where does digestion start? Where does it begin?
Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. But we know that exercise is not the only piece of the puzzle, and that is why we are bringing you a phenomenal guest today, none other than Dr. Justin Coop. Dr. Justin M. Coop is the founder of Inspired Health Center and is passionately devoted to educating his community about health and wellness. He strives to help people understand the power of their own body and how the innate wisdom that created our bodies to function as an independent person is also able to heal and return life and vitality to our body if given the opportunity. This education thus inspires and empowers people in their decision-making regarding the health of themselves and their families. Dr. Coop received his doctorate from Logan College of Chiropractic in 2003. He was clinic director of a thriving practice in Sycamore, Illinois for 11 years, but is now devoting his time and passion into building his own functional wellness practice, focusing on the health of the body from a holistic approach in Naperville, Illinois. Although his original training is in chiropractic, Dr. Coop is now incorporating functional medicine along with chiropractic care in order to greater address the underlying cause of common health problems and to help and serve his patients even more. Functional medicine is a unique approach to health that addresses the cause of the problem rather than chasing symptoms and strives to uncover the why behind any loss of our full potential to be healthy. Not only is Dr. Coop a gifted doctor and educator, he is also perceptive, passionate, and friendly. He enjoys volunteering his time to enrich his community by providing valuable information that will enable families to live and enjoy life to the fullest. In addition to his growing family practice, he considers himself to be extremely blessed with his loving wife, Dorothy, and his 3 young children, Natalie, Ryan, and Evan. Outside of the practice, Dr. Justin enjoys being very active with his family. He also has a passion for cooking and enjoys preparing healthy meals and snacks for his wife and children, as well as having large gatherings with extended family and friends. Dr. Coop, thank you so much and welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me here. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, right on. We are excited to have you and learn more about you and about your practice. So why don't you kind of expand on your bio and tell us more about not only how you got into chiropractic, but then making the shift into functional medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom was a nurse actually for 31 years. So she instilled that passion into healthcare, and she was a home healthcare nurse. So she'd bring all of her files home and chart and talk about like kind of the scenarios that were going on. And I just thought it was very fascinating. Loved science from the time I was a child. So that got me into healthcare. My mom also got me into chiropractic. When I started off my journey in school, I was actually pre-med. And I was going to be a pediatrician. I'm from a pretty large family. I'm actually one of 35 grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah, big family, big family. So I was surrounded by kids my whole life. And started off school, pre-med, biology major. And my mom was at the time actually going back to school and becoming a massage therapist. So she had gone through some trauma in her life, had some injuries, and basically just tried to let it just resolve on its own, which it did not. And so she found her path down to chiropractic and massage therapy and muscle work. And that basically got her back to a state of health. And so this was happening my freshman year in college. I volunteered at a hospital, and was an amazing experience. Just realized that wasn't kind of fitting me.
Sure.
And so I went through a little bit of a soul-searching journey and figured out that chiropractic was where I wanted to be. I actually shadowed, my mom started working with a chiropractor my junior year and shadowed with him and loved it. So that got me into chiropractic. Yeah. Came out of chiropractic school in 2003, and I was going to change the world on fire. Started off as an associate and got into practice with a larger group fairly quickly. And loved it. Did that for 11 years, focused a lot on musculoskeletal, physical medicine, and nutrition. Nutrition's always been something I love and passionate about. After our third child was born 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago, my wife got into her own health crisis. So we, always were trying to live healthy, eat well, be active. And she's a tax accountant. So he was born in January, and she went back to tax season full time in February. So she had about 5 weeks after the baby was born. Mind you, we had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old as well. So life was a little chaotic, a little crazy. And within a couple of weeks of her being back at work, her world just kind of fell apart. And it was all centered around her like digestion. I mean, what she started off having was just horrible pain. Sure. And it was, like bloating, discomfort. And she's just like, oh, it's stress, it's exhaustion, it's everything that was going on, which was understandable. But it just kind of kept getting worse to the point where she wasn't able to sleep. She wasn't able to lay down. The pain would just get like terrible.
Wow.
So, and we're in the middle of all this like tax season. So she's in survival mode, So she's like, I just got to get to the end of this. I just got to get to the end of this, and then life will calm down. And so she didn't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to have any tests done. She didn't want to do anything. It was just like, let's just get through this. So we discovered that if she didn't eat, she wasn't so bad. She was.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but you got to have something.
Right.
So we basically started doing green smoothies. So she lived on green smoothies. So I got really good at making green smoothies.
I bet, yeah.
That's what she had, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that got us through tax season. So that was about 2 months of green smoothies.
Wow.
I know. It's kind of crazy. After that, life calmed down a bit. Life was still a little bit chaotic, but it calmed down, and she started feeling a little bit better. So we were actually about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks after the end of tax season. We were at my mom and dad's. It was actually Easter weekend. And my mom, grew up on a farm, so she actually raises her own chickens. So, like nice, organic, everything. And so we had a very simple meal. It was baked chicken, some vegetables. And Dorothy's like, let's try to eat something. She was feeling pretty good. Mistake. She was up all night, couldn't sleep. She actually didn't get out of bed Easter Sunday till about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So we're like, all right, let's go get some tests done. Yeah. So I was actually ready to let's go to the ER, but we didn't do that. She's like, I'm not going there. Monday, we went and had some tests done. I was suspicious it was gallbladder. She had all signs of gallbladder attacks. I mean, that's what all this was pointing to. She has a family history of that with, other family members. And so sure enough, we went, and I was also concerned that maybe it was something more serious. Maybe there was some sort of, disease of tissue, something more scary. So we went, ultrasound, everything was healthy, except for she had a lot of gallstones. Like literally it looked like a bag of marbles.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
So of course, the standard approach to that is let's just surgically remove the gallbladder.
Sure.
And Dorothy was not exactly in favor of that. So her experience was she had the family members that had gone through this go through that. They had the surgery, and especially her mom was one individual who had this done at a pretty young age. She was in her mid-20s.
Okay.
And just never really felt well. So dealt with various digestive and health-related stuff. And so Dorothy had, kind of seen this her whole life. And she was also, she was a co-leader in her Holistic Moms group. We were trying to live a very just natural, holistic lifestyle.
Right.
She had 2 home births.
Wow.
So she was coming from a place where she's like, I really want to figure out what's going on in my body. Why is my body producing all these stones? And I want to keep my gallbladder.
Yeah.
So that led us down a journey of, okay, where do we go? And so, we go to where most people go. We go to Dr. Google, right?
Right.
Gallbladder flush. Figure this out. Like, what do we do? And, she's amazing on the internet. So she was Googling all these things. And, some of them were kind of like, I don't know about that. And some of them were like, they seemed good. They were logical. So she found one, and it was very thorough, very, laid out, and it was about a 10-day process, and she followed it to the letter, and it worked. I mean, you do some prep work, it was like basically a malic acid just to help soften up the stones, and then the flush day is kind of, you do like kind of really gross things like, grapefruit juice and straight up like olive oil, like a fourth a cup of olive oil, and Yeah.
Wow.
So, but it's like, 6 a.m. you'll wake up and all the stuff will come out, and it did. I mean, it was crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like her system just like dumped all this like stuff out.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. And then so she's like, okay, so it's kind of like I removed all that that stuff.
Sure.
And she's like, maybe we can kind of start resuming, because she's been on smoothies this whole time. I mean, we're getting out like 3 months of smoothies.
Wow.
To get some solid food in.
Right. So try to eat some solid food, and sure enough, no. Like her body was just like, nope. I mean, the pain came back. Everything, like nothing happened. So she's, there's all kinds of emotions going on. She's mad, she's frustrated, she's scared. She's like, am I just going to live on smoothies for the rest of my life?
Right.
Like, what's the deal? So thank goodness, through the direction of some of her friends and some of the people we knew, they kept pointing in one direction, this functional medicine doctor in Oak Brook. And so we're like, all right, let's go, meet with him and figure out if he can help us. And started just, the thing that really blew me away was he started looking at this in a little bit different way. It was kind of like, what's the why? Like where is this coming from? And sure enough, she had all kinds of stuff going on. She had bacterial overgrowth, and she had like low pancreatic activity and low liver activity, and just like everything was like all these things that were going on that was just compiling.
Yeah.
And so we laid out a plan step by step to kind of start resolving piece by piece. She kept her gallbladder.
Wow.
Still has it to this day.
That's awesome.
Got back to eating food.
Nice.
And one curious thing was like, so, she had the baby, and she had normal baby weight.
Sure.
She never lost the majority of that through this whole period.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but like as we started cleaning up her system, it kind of just like fell off.
Wow.
Whoa.
Like quickly. Actually,
Like
a
her
little
body
too
was like
quickly.
holding on to it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I
Interesting.
mean, it was like
Wow.
it was like literally her body was like a sponge, and like as soon as all that like kind of just toxic yuck was out of her body,
Yeah.
its body's just like, well, we don't need this anymore. I mean, she wasn't really exercising or things that we knew she should have been, because she didn't feel like it. I mean, she was kind of recovering.
And she was living off of smoothies.
Yeah.
It's
Right?
difficult to expend more energy.
Yeah. So it was like, if it was a caloric thing, it was
Sure.
pretty basic. But yeah, so that was an amazing thing. So I mean, this whole experience was, was over about a 5-month period. Like, just opened my eyes to like, I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on that I really wasn't even, as a doctor, and I thought I was looking at things from a structural, functional kind of basis.
Sure.
And I was, but there was just certain things I just simply wasn't looking at.
Sure.
That started us down a journey of kind of looking at more of approaching it in this way. And so this was in 2013. So bring us to 2015, I left my position as clinic director of a big practice in Sycamore to start our own practice, focusing on integrating all these things together.
Nice.
So my current practice really focuses on really looking at the body as a whole as much as we possibly can.
Awesome.
And obviously there's many facets to that.
Sure.
And the big question I always ask when someone walks in is why? If you're not well, you're not, something's off. You're not, especially like the mystery stuff. You're like, I don't have any idea. I've been here, I've been there, I've had this test, and I just don't feel good. Don't know. So it's getting to that why, because my core belief is we are designed to be healthy. Our body wants to be healthy. Even if we're not healthy, it wants to get to health.
Yeah.
It's always trying to do that. So if it's not able to, there's something either interfering or missing, or there's a why. So that's the focus of our practice, which brings us to our topic today with digestion. When you ask, what do you want to talk about? Well, I mean, of course, this started my journey in functional medicine. My wife's core problem was digestion.
Right.
And what I've learned over the years of working on this situation is, even when someone comes in and they like, man, my digestion's great, I feel normal, totally normal. That was me, by the way. I thought I had when people say, have an iron constitution, I can eat absolutely anything I want.
Yeah,
and fine. That was me. I could eat anything I want.
Sure.
And didn't gain weight and all those things. So of course, as I'm going in this myself, I started, okay, well, let's check me out, because that's what we do. And come to find out, I had things like leaky gut going on. I had food sensitivities going on. I had antibodies to my thyroid. So I had all this stuff going on. And the main symptom that I had was fatigue, which I just said was, okay, I'm busy,
work-related, right?
Kids,
exactly.
Life.
Yeah.
But what I found out is, well, okay, so I removed the food sensitivities. I actually started working on my healthy gut that wasn't so healthy.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, I don't need 3 coffees to get through the day. And I don't, I don't feel like I hit a wall at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Sure.
It went away.
Right.
That's
and actually,
awesome.
it was,
Yeah.
but it was kind of eye-opening for me too, because I'm like, I thought I was really healthy,
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I talk to people, of course you want to address what's going on with them.
Sure.
And there's always questions that lie into digestion. And to me, the thing is even if we have good digestion, we want it to be better, right?
True.
It's one of those things that we want to optimize as much as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I always like to kind of talk about is the process of digestion. Because a lot of times when we think digestion, we think, oh, it doesn't bother me. I don't bloat. I don't get, I don't get reflux. I don't, I don't get any of that stuff. I have good digestion. And so if we break it down to the process, the question I love asking people is, where does digestion start? Where does it begin?
You
So
think
I'm
I was
gonna
thinking
say-
in the mouth.
Or like when, either in the mouth or when you see or smell food.
So what do you think?
Did I get it right?
You got it right.
Yes. Well, because I'm thinking like when you are experiencing food that hasn't even entered your body, I feel different.
Right.
Like, so I know something's happening.
Yeah,
You know?
Interesting.
you're right. So, but you're
Interesting.
right. A lot of people think mouth, right? Chew. That's where it all starts, but it's not.
Interesting. Okay.
35% of digestion happens in the mind
Wow.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
before we ever
Wow.
put it into our mouth.
Over a third. That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think of that, like, if there's any supplement, drug, anything that had 35% impact,
Yeah.
that'd be huge.
Big deal. It's a
big deal.
A really big deal.
But what do you mean by that? Like, how does it start in the mind? What do you mean?
So you've, I'm sure, heard of that famous experiment with Pavlov's dog, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So what they do, they fed the dog some food and rang a bell. Fed the dog some food, rang the bell. They did this, over and over, and then they just rang the bell. What happened to the dog?
Started
Salivate like he was getting ready to eat.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So your mind is controlling a lot of what's happening with your digestion. And what that really means is, let's take a common thing that I'm sure happens all the time. We're in a rush. We go through a drive-through. We get let's say we're getting a grilled chicken sandwich. We're going to do something a little bit healthy today. So we get a grilled chicken sandwich, and we're in traffic. We're at a light. We got kids in the back seat, and we're eating the sandwich because we're on our way to drop the kids off and go to work. Do you think we're digesting anything in that scenario? Is your mind focusing on digestion?
No, goodness, no. It's focusing on traffic. It's
Well, I
looking
feel
at
like,
the kids.
and I feel like the
Right?
way that I think a lot of us think of it, and probably myself, especially when you're eating, when you're busy, is like you're just thinking, oh, my body takes care of it.
Yeah.
Just get it in, get it down,
Exactly.
and then go
Right.
back to work or get back to managing the kids and all that stuff.
Yep.
So we kind of think like, oh, we just put food
It's
in
automatic.
and it
Right.
just goes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But your brain, if it's thinking about something else, it's not thinking about digestion. So yeah, you're getting calories into your body, but you're not really utilizing those calories. 'Cause you're not truly digesting. You're actually probably creating more toxicity in your body because your body is like it's not there. So when you think digestion, you really have to kind of like stop, take a break.
Sure.
And actually look at your food, smell it, like you said, like smell it, look
Yeah.
at it, kind of think about it. Because that preps the body, that gets the body kind of ready to actually digest.
Interesting.
So we think we just throw whatever in there and it just does it,
Right.
breaks it down. But it's a process, and that process kind of starts with the mind. So just that simple step as far as actually, if you go through the drive-through, that's cool. Don't eat it in your car. Wait till you get home or wait till you get to where you're going or stop at a park or, stop somewhere and even eat it in your car, but stop. Stop and look at it and kind of just be present with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, my rule of 5 when it comes to digestion is, choose, hopefully we choose well, choose nutritious food, choose something that's going to feed us, chill. So just pause and you can say a little thing of gratitude for the food that's in front of you. Say a prayer, whatever how you like to do that. But just take a moment, pause, chill, chew. So yes, then we go back to what you were saying. Yeah, you want to chew your food, and it's kind of funny. I was just happened yesterday. So made breakfast for my kids, and I had scrambled eggs with some bacon in there, and my daughter loves grits, so we made some homemade grits and. We're eating that, and my 9-year-old, he's sitting there. He's like, "Oh, this is amazing." I mean, literally, he's like 1-2 bite chunk swallow.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he's just like kind of like wolfing it down, and I'm like, "You like it there, buddy?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is amazing." He's like, "That's why I'm eating so fast." And I'm like, "Well, you'd probably enjoy it a little more if you slow down."
Yeah.
So we all do that. I mean, I know
Sure.
I do that,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things like when you chew the food, you want to kind of taste it. Let it sit in your mouth. Let it actually soften up a little bit.
Yeah.
A, you're going to enjoy it more. B, you're actually going to digest it better. So just that simple step as far as, relaxing before you put it in your mouth. And then once you get it in your mouth, just like, chew it up.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Taste it. And then swallow. So if we just focus on those things, I mean, we haven't talked about any supplements. We haven't talked about, any kind of intervention. These are just simple, basic things. But just that has a massive improvement on our ability to digest food.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Wait, so I thought we had 5 things.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
So we got the first 3.
You gave us 3.
Yep.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, cliffhanger, exactly. So we got choose, chill, chew, cherish. So that's where the gratitude comes in. I think gratitude is so just healing to the body, and whether it's our food or whatever it is, I like to start the day with a statement of gratitude, end the day with a statement of gratitude. I do this with my kids as well. So with your food too, just you can say it in your mind, you can say it out loud, whatever works. And the last thing is check.
Check. What do you mean by check?
So did the food kind of make you feel energetic? Did the food make you want to go take a nap? Did the food make you feel unsettled? Did it make you feel good? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad food or a good food. Sometimes our bodies like certain things, and sometimes our body doesn't like certain things. So listen, listen to your body. If your body's like, hey, I don't like that, then maybe we should choose something else. And then the other check is when you go to the bathroom.
Sure.
Check it.
Yeah.
I pretty much ask people about their bowel movements on a daily basis, because it's one way that we can just look at our digestion.
Sure.
And see, is it kind of normal? Is it happening? Is it not happening?
Right.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
So those are my 5.
I love
like
it.
that. Yeah.
Well, I love those points because so many times when we think about our food or digestion or all those things going together, we think about the rules of this is how I eat and this is the time when I eat, and these principles can almost be applied to everyone everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what your goal is with improving nutrition or your diet or how you're eating, and it doesn't matter if you're living here or there or whatever. So I love that, and we find that happens a lot with exercise too. People get so involved with the rules, this is my program and it lasts for 30 minutes 3 times a week. I'm like, okay, well, there are principles we need to apply within that. So I like your principles, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's really cool.
Yeah, the simplicity of them is awesome, and like you're saying, it doesn't cost any more to do it. It's just taking a little bit more time and recognizing, like you're saying, that over a third of the digestive process starts before you even taste the food.
Mouth.
Exactly.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
Well, and think about how many issues, just if you said, okay, I'm not going to listen to anything else Dr. Coop says except these 5 principles.
Right.
How many issues would be resolved? Just saying, okay, I'm going to choose food. That means, okay, I'm just going to think about what I'm putting in my mouth, whether that's from McDonald's or from Whole Foods. And then I'm going to chill. And I'm going to chew. Think about how many people would stop overeating just in that little bit because they're being more mindful, or they're actually sitting down and looking at their food. And then additionally cherishing the food. I love that because, again, I think we think of our bodies as this automatic machine that I don't have to do much except give it calories or follow the diet program, and it doesn't matter, it just takes care of itself. So really cool. I was just thinking through all the different common things people bring up with their diet or their digestion. That even that will make a huge difference.
I think if you just look at it and apply it, it really should. And I like that you brought up the diet. I don't like that. I don't like diets. I don't. I mean, there's a time and place for certain things, like SIBO diet or something like that. But those are short-term kind of to fix something. We need to eat as a lifestyle. And if we're really being conscious of, what we're putting into our bodies and the purpose, it's fuel, right? I mean, it's designed to fuel our bodies. And so we're really looking at that. It helps with us making mindful choices. And if we're cherishing that, I'm not saying we don't cherish a cheeseburger. I don't mind a good cheeseburger here and there. But, we're going to probably even gravitate towards foods that are going to be just better for us because we're looking at it that I'm, kind of rewarding my body, and I'm being conscious with that choice and decision.
Yeah, I like the idea of rewarding the body as opposed to just instead of fueling the body. All right, let's just put something in it so I can go. The end result of the eating is the going. Like you fuel your car so your car can go. Right. But it's no, you're rewarding your body for everything it's done, and in a sense, kind of preparing it for the next things. But
both, right?
But the rewarding, I think, is a really neat outlook on it.
Yeah.
So we talked. You started talking about how digestion starts.
Yeah.
And we talked about some of the points there. I have a question. What is digestion? Why does our body digest stuff, and what is the end outcome or goal that we should have with digestion? Like when we're thinking about digestion, what?
Awesome question.
Tell us about that.
So to me, I think of digestion as a process. And so, we start with whole food, whatever that food is. And the goal is to get, caloric, fuel, so like gas for your body, and nutrients. So your body can, make tissues and repair and create chemicals and hormones. And so your body can do all that. So when you think of all the just amazing things your body does on a constant daily basis, where does it get all that stuff from? From what we put into it. Mm-hmm. So what we eat and drink is really what your body has to use to do everything that it needs to do. So the process of digestion is taking that whole food and those, the nutrients that are locked in there and unlocking them. So it's basically breaking it down into think of it like it's like base molecules and base components, because that's what you absorb. You don't absorb like chunks of steak.
Yeah.
Right.
You absorb amino acids. You have to break it down.
I see.
And so that's the process. So so like the mind part of it, that's like setting up that system. It's kind of like think of like a factory or something. It's like turning everything on and getting everything primed and everything. So then once you throw that material through, it can make the widget at the end of it. Mm-hmm. So that's where the mind's coming in. So it's getting that whole system kind of primed and pumped and ready to go. And then your teeth mechanically break it down. Your stomach is an amazing place. I mean, it's like crazy acidic, and that's good. I know everyone thinks like, oh, I got a lot of stomach acid, that's bad. That's usually because we got stress or we got something going on that's driving that. Your stomach should be acidic, and that's actually really important. When you put that food in there, the acid will break it down, but it also kills off any bacteria or fungus or yeast or bad guys that live on our food. And especially if we're in that situation where we're just like shoving food down and eating kind of quick, and we got this kind of big chunk of food.
Sure.
I mean, we got bacteria probably on our hands. Who knows where the food was sitting for a little while.
Sure.
Even if we wash it and we get organic, I mean, those are all obviously very good things, but there's still stuff on our food.
Sure.
And so your stomach's designed to kill that stuff. And then when we deal with that reflux and that stomach acid, a lot of times it's because there's something driving that, and it's usually an infection of some kind, stress of some kind, a sensitivity, like a food sensitivity of some kind. Something's driving that. So we need to figure out just, antacids. And I'm not saying there's possibly a place for that. I don't like antacids because they weaken that stomach environment, and then that doesn't allow those kind of, killing off pathogens and digesting food. That's also weakened.
Sure.
So we want to address where's this reflux really coming from?
Interesting.
And then after the stomach comes what?
Intestines?
Yeah, so your small intestine. So your small intestine, it's massive. It's literally like, think of like a cheesecloth. So it's one cell thick. Wow. So it's really, really thin.
Oh, really thin. I see.
So and underneath those line of cells is your bloodstream.
Oh,
and
wow.
so it's designed that way because that cheesecloth, it kind of filters the nutrients through, so it gets into your blood, and then your body uses that. But it's massive. It's like the size of a tennis court. I mean, your small intestine's about 21 feet long.
Whoa.
And it's got little, twists and turns and convolutions. And so, yeah, if you actually laid it out flat, it's a cheesecloth about the size of a tennis court.
Jeez.
Wow, that's crazy.
Got some significant tissue in there, man.
Right?
Yeah. That's
and
nuts.
and that's the surface area. That's where we absorb all our nutrients. Most of the nutrients are being absorbed in that small intestine.
Wow.
And that's where where the leaky gut and all that kind of stuff comes in. Is
Okay.
that's all happening in the small
I could
intestine.
see how that might be obviously it's designed for its function of absorption, but it can also, because it's so conducive to absorption, it's a sensitive tissue to mechanical change, I'm sure.
Yeah. So you're 100% right. And that's, you think about the world we live in, there's a lot of insults to our system.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just reality. Mm-hmm. So in the small intestine is one of those that, it's a pretty amazing tissue because it's designed, like you said, to absorb, but it also, its very nature allows it to be under attack, and then it can be disrupted.
Okay. So then after the small intestine, you have the large intestine?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So and in the large intestine, one of the really cool things there is, so that's where the majority of bacteria are housed, and they produce things like short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids are amazing for gut health, for gut brain, like the nerve kind of connection, for hormonal responses. They actually influence things like your blood sugar sensitivity, so your insulin sensitivity, and all that is these short chain fatty acids. So if we have good bacteria in our large intestine, and we eat vegetables because that's what they like to eat, the good guys. What do you think the bad guys eat?
Sugar.
Yeah, that's it. They like sugar and starches, and there's a balance with all that stuff.
Sure.
But if we eat those vegetables and then these bacteria eat that, then they release these short chain fatty acids.
Okay.
One of them, butyrate, is an amazing short chain fatty acid, and so there's a food that most of us probably like to eat that's a really good source of it. And we can put it on vegetables. We can, if you're eating toast, maybe you'll put it on some
butter.
Yeah.
Love
Oh,
butter.
good. We eat a lot of butter.
Love butter.
So of course you want to get good butter.
Sure.
None
We
of that.
got
So
our
you think it's butter?
Kerrygold.
Yeah, right.
That's
Oh my
silliness.
gosh. Whenever
Real good butter,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty good on social media when I see things I disagree with, but what I can't handle is that I can't believe it's not butter commercials. I'm like, I want to comment. I'm like, I prefer real, organic,
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
from whole cows.
just keep it real. Keep it real.
from the cow.
But yeah, butter or ghee, both
Okay.
those, they're amazing sources of butyrate.
Awesome.
Which is awesome for your large intestine.
Very
Awesome.
cool.
Cool.
So when people are talking about like improving the gut health with like probiotics or something like
Yeah.
that, the probiotics, that's affecting the bacterial balance in the large intestine then, not necessarily in the stomach itself or the small intestine, but more the large intestine.
Well, it can have an influence. I mean, that's where we want the good flora to be, is in your large intestine.
Gotcha,
But
okay.
certain bacteria also help with digesting certain things. Like there's certain probiotics that will help break down, dairy. There's certain ones that will help break down carbohydrates.
Sure.
So depending on where they're at in your system, they may also facilitate the aid of digestion itself. Same thing with like digestive enzymes. So one of the things we kind of, moved past a little quickly is, in the small intestine, we talked about its absorption and everything. But right after the food, which after we chew it up and it goes in your stomach, then it's called chyme. So as that food kind of leaves your stomach, it's sprayed with stuff.
Oh, interesting.
So when it leaves,
Like a
gets
car
into your
wash.
small, yeah, kinda. So because you think about it, it's
Right.
really acidic when it's in the stomach.
Sure.
Sure.
Oh,
Your
sure.
stomach's
yeah.
designed to hold that.
Okay.
It's normal. But when
Yeah.
it gets into your small intestine doesn't exactly like that acidity.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to quiz you guys. What do you think the first organ is that sprays stuff on your food after it leaves the stomach?
Ooh.
Is it the thing everyone gets removed?
Well, that comes second. I think you're talking about the gallbladder and bile.
Is it called the duodenum?
Well, that's part of the small intestine, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
I was thinking
actually-
all my anatomy. I'm like, I don't know.
you're right there. You're right there. That's the small intestine.
I don't know. Is there like a valve or something?
Well,
I don't know.
there's a duct, but it's your
Yeah.
pancreas.
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So pancreatic enzymes, and it also releases bicarbonate, which bicarbonate's an alkaline base, and so it helps to neutralize the acid
Yeah.
and brings it back up to a more normal pH level.
Oh,
So
interesting,
your
yeah.
pancreas actually releases a bunch of enzymes, and the enzymes help to break the food up more, and they help to bring it back up to a normal pH so it doesn't harm your small intestine.
okay.
And then we have bile, which is I think where you were going with the gallbladder, right? So the gallbladder just holds the bile.
Yeah.
Bile is produced in your liver. And there's actually kind of research showing that it's almost acting like a hormone in the body. So bile is like really amazing in what it's doing with your food.
Yeah.
And even if you have your gallbladder removed, you're still producing bile. You just don't have a little reservoir anymore.
Sure.
So we don't have as much there to be kind of released into your system. But those two help with the digestion and absorption. So without the pancreatic enzymes and the bile, we're not going to absorb food as easily as it goes through the rest of the small intestine. So that's
Sure.
happening right there at the start of the small intestine.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
So liver function and pancreatic function are a big part of digestion too.
Yeah, and we never think about those. It's like we think about just like the tube that goes from our mouth to our butt.
Right,
It's like,
right, exactly.
oh, I don't know what happens between there. So when someone comes in to see you, I'm sure people come in with all these different symptoms, and you're asking why. And what would make you think, if someone's sitting in front of you, like, maybe we should start like diving into this digestive tract, digestive thinking, looking at how you're digesting. What kind of symptoms are people seeing, and what are they talking to you about that would make you think, like, because you brought up fatigue, and I'm like, who doesn't have fatigue?
Right.
So does everyone that has fatigue should go look at their digestion? So what does that look like?
History is a huge part of that. So obviously if there's some digestion things like heartburn, reflux, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, any of those, we definitely need to look there because those are definitely pointing signs. Some other ones that are really common is, let's say we have an overactive immune system. We get a runny nose all the time. We get, sore throats all the time. We get skin reactions, like these little like rashy things that like pop up. Like, it just keeps happening. And we're like, I don't understand what's going on. Or we get like simple blood work done. Like my white blood cells are always high. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel sick. I'm not like fighting a fever or nothing like that. Your immune system is intertwined with your digestive system. So like close to 70% of our immune activity is all surrounded that digestive system. So if there's any, and that's for fatigue. So think about it, when you're fighting a cold, fatigue.
Sure.
So if you have an overactive immune system, which I did, I had antibodies,
Yeah.
I had, leaky gut, I had food sensitivities. So food sensitivity is an immune reaction. So I had all this stuff. So my immune system was kind of ramped up, which is where my fatigue was coming from.
Yeah, your body's totally focused on that and not on let's give them extra energy to work out or
Right.
feel energized. And yeah.
So skin reactions are really common. Anything going on with your immune system is really common. And then the last one, and there's a lot of reasons, but like brain fog or even things like anxiety. Again, there's many triggers, but gut's a good place to look at because, again, we can start with some really simple stuff.
Sure.
We can start with, what are you eating and how are you chewing your food and are you relaxing when you're eating? Are you like crazy on the go all the time? So you can start with some really simple things and be like, it's actually getting better. Awesome.
Cool. That's all you had to do.
Right.
And so if we are going to go down the route of this person needs to work on their gut health and they're doing these 5 things, what are some other more involved things that you might look for, think of? And, they've taken care of the first 5 basics and they're like, okay, next step.
Yeah. So
what are some of those look like?
Depending on everyone's diet's unique. Everyone eats different things. And so from a testing viewpoint, you can go through kind of like a really simple elimination process. And I always look at what are the most common things that people react to. It's a good place to start. You can do food sensitivity testing, but I actually like to start with, let's look at common foods that create problems and just take them out of our diet for a period, see how we feel. Sure. If nothing changes, then we have to look a little bit further. Honestly, it doesn't necessarily mean that wasn't a problem, but there's other things that are happening. Because could you have a food sensitivity and could you have like some sort of a bacterial overgrowth and could you have, leaky gut and you can have a whole bunch of stuff going on. But removing certain foods, and what are the common foods?
Like gluten.
That's a big one.
Dairy.
Yep. Those are
Sugar.
top 2. Yep. Yes.
All
Those. Yeah. So seriously, that is. Gluten, corn, dairy are extremely common, and it's part of just the nature of these foods, especially in our country. And then sugar. Sugar just creates inflammation. It just does.
Yeah.
There's times we can enjoy a little sugar and stuff, but if we're like, I'm a little crazy with my sugar. I know I have too much. That's a good place to start. And it's not an easy thing. It's transition. Kind of like
Definitely
let's
not,
cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. But that's always a good place to start is removing those foods and see how you feel. Because a lot of people start feeling a lot better by just doing that. And then if they're not, then we have to take it another step. All right, let's find out, is there some sort of maybe like a infection or overgrowth or some sort of, that'd probably be the next thing that we'd want to look at.
After they've removed the foods and you're starting to take those next steps and look at things like infection or overgrowth or something like that, is there different testing that's done for that or how do you go about doing that in your office?
Yeah, especially if we're concerned about what I call a community. Because, the reality is we all have the stuff. We all have bacteria. Not all friendly good guys. We all have candida. That's pretty much, every human. And we all have probably some parasites, little, even they're microscopic little guys. But it's the balance of that community. And so a great test is doing like a comprehensive stool test. And to me, you want to look at one that's looking at the DNA. So it's going to be like a DNA analysis of the sample because it's going to be more accurate. And so there's several companies that do that, but you want to do a comprehensive. A lot of stool tests will only look at what we call pathogens, like E. coli and salmonella and C. diff and these like scary guys, and they're bad. We want to check them, but those can be totally not there, like completely absent, and we can still have problems. So we also want to look at, we do want to look at the good guys. And the biggest thing with good guys is make sure we have enough and make sure we have diversity. And then we want to look at like opportunistic guys. So these aren't exactly bad bacteria. Depending on how many of them are there. But if they start to accumulate, they form like a gang. Sure.
Opportunistic ones.
Right, an opportunistic gang. And they create problems. They create disruption. And then like candida, again, we all have it. It's just how much is there? Is it in a normal level or is it getting a little bit out of bounds? Is it getting a little bit out of control? Yeah. And so you want to measure that. And then you can measure some of those things that we talked about, like your elastase, which are those pancreatic enzymes.
Oh, I see.
You can measure like markers for like leaky gut, zonulin, which you can actually measure the degree of leaky gut. We all have a little bit of leaky gut going on. That's normal.
Sure.
And I know I keep saying leaky gut. It's permeability. So how permeable is that
Too much,
cheesecloth?
I see.
Yeah.
You know, too much is not good.
Uh-huh.
But you know, we all have some little tiny tears in our cheesecloth that your body
Sure.
repairs.
Gotcha.
You know, that's normal.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Sure.
It depends on how much. You know, if it's ripped to shreds, then
Sure.
we need to help it.
Well, that seems like kind of like Julie was saying earlier, the nature of the tissue itself, where it has to have a certain amount of permeability, and because of that, then it's going to make it more susceptible to even being even more permeable. You know, as I'm guessing, just over time and as it gets used more and more and more.
So it's a natural process. I mean, we all get like these tears. We all get periods of leaky gut. We're actually born with leaky gut, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. When we're babies, we're born with a leaky gut with open junctions.
Oh, interesting.
And that's so when we nurse, when we get mother's milk, it has big immunoglobulins and big proteins that if we had like those real tight junctions, we wouldn't be able to absorb them. And those are really, really important.
Interesting.
So we have a leaky gut until we're about 18, 24 months old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've been reading a lot about that. A lot of our listeners know that I'm pregnant, but it's like how important like breastfeeding is in the beginning, because it's like
really is.
It's coating the digestive system and it's fueling the baby appropriately. And I'm like, okay, I want to be the most hardcore breastfeeder ever, you know. So,
But it's also good for the mom.
yes.
So I mean, there's, and what I always, just kind of relate to moms, expecting parents, is I don't know where you're at on that, but I mean, if you're open to nursing, explore that as much as you possibly can. And there's some times when women they're not able to, and but if you can, and you're like it's so good for baby, it's so good for mom, and there's just things that you can't get anywhere else. It's the reality.
Yeah.
So Dr. Coop, this is all just fascinating to kind of hit the major highlights of what I'm hearing so far as like what our listeners can do. So we have kind of those 5 C's: the choose, chill, chew, cherish, and check. Okay, we talked about like removing foods, the most common ones, whether it's gluten, dairy, corn, and reducing sugar intake. And then if things still aren't where they would like to be, getting some testing done. Is there anything else that you would include that our listeners should consider doing if they're worried about their gut health?
Yeah, another simple thing, we talked about the benefit of acidity in the stomach. And some people are like, I talk to so many people like, oh, I know, like weak stomach acid, like I know it. So what are some things that we can do to help improve that environment gradually and slowly? And so bitters, have you guys, not making mixed drinks here, but bitters, and you can buy them, and the bitter helps to stimulate that acid production.
Interesting.
So it like primes the stomach, so to speak. Now, bitters to me are a little intense. I don't know. That's not my thing, but you can. But a simple thing we can do is apple cider vinegar, like a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, third of a cup of water, just a little bit of water to make kind of like a little drink, and squeeze in half a lemon.
Okay.
And just sip on that. And how much? Until you kind of feel a little warm action happening in your stomach, and then your stomach's ready to go.
Interesting.
Now, if you're sensitive to apple cider vinegar, some people who have like a high histamine response, they can't tolerate apple cider vinegar. Some can. Start slow. If you're just like, I can't do apple cider vinegar at all, just do the lemon juice. Lemon juice and water. So that's something that you can do, and do it about 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes before you're getting down to sit to a meal.
Okay.
And that helps to prime that pump.
Gotcha.
And if you know you just have weak stomach, you can just do this whenever throughout the day.
Okay.
And it helps to kind of get that stomach environment back on track.
The warmth. So Charlie and I are big apple cider vinegar people. I actually do 2 tablespoons. The one with the mother.
Hardcore.
And I was like,
You just take it straight.
Hardcore. All
and
right.
you're like,
You feel the warmth.
yeah. I get hot after, and I think, wow, that was just so intense. All right, on to my meal.
There you go.
That's a good thing. So it's cool that actually helps. And then is it actually? We get the one that like has all the
mother,
and it's like all like looks like there's chunks of junk in it.
Raw unfiltered. There you go.
That's what
There
we
you
get.
go.
Okay, good.
Raw unfiltered.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Dr. Coop, we've been discussing extensively like what our listeners can do to help improve their health. But we're curious, what do you do to kind of maintain and improve your own health throughout your day and week?
Yeah, so I start my morning every morning with warm water and fresh lemon juice. That's how I start it. I drink primarily water. I do enjoy coffee, so I'll have a cup of coffee here and there. That's usually my weekend treat. I get coffee, or I'll make it at home. Don't drink while you're eating your food. So we need a lot of water, right? I mean, I know muscle health, body health, filtration, all this stuff. We need lots and lots of water, but you don't want to drink a lot during your meal. So we're talking about all these like stomach juices and acid and enzymes and all this stuff. So if we're just like drinking glasses and glasses and glasses of water, you kind of dilute everything.
Sure.
So you're not getting that digestive juice, if you will. You're diluting it.
Interesting.
So you want to drink your water before your meal, and then 15, 20 minutes before your meal, just kind of chill, maybe do the lemon juice or apple cider vinegar, do something to kind of warm up that stomach. And then not during your meal, you want about maybe 6, 7, 8 ounces at the most.
Interesting.
So like a small glass, small glass. And then wait a little while afterwards before you start drinking. And then drink most of your water between meals.
Okay.
That's when we want to hydrate.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So, Dr. Coop, let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, hey, you know what? I feel like I have some digestive stuff going on. I'm definitely going to try those tips, but I'd really like to meet with Dr. Coop. How can people connect with you, find out more about you, get involved with your practice?
Absolutely. So my practice is in Naperville. We do a lot on Facebook, and we do a lot in the community as well. So Inspired Health Center is our practice. Awesome. So you can just go to Facebook, type in Inspired Health Center, find us. Our website's the same, www.inspiredhealthcenter. And we got information on there. We got some blogs and some other good stuff to read. And of course, you can call us. You can, all our stuff's on our website and also on our email. You can email me. It's my name, drjustincoop@gmail.com. So I do stuff virtually. I do stuff in office. So if you're like, well, Naperville's kind of a distance for me, I've worked with people who live in different states.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of what we do, we can run through steps. We can figure out what's going on. I do always love to meet people face to face, especially at the start. But then we can kind of do things virtually and in other ways as well.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Now, the question that we like wrapping up with all of our guests is, Dr. Coop, what is your definition of health?
That's a good question. So, to me, definition of health is waking up, feeling vibrant, ready to go, and have the energy, the mental clarity, and kind of just the drive to do what it is that you want to do throughout the day. And you're able to end your day, rest, go to sleep soundly. Yes, normal is we should be able to sleep all the way through the night. Now, that doesn't always happen to me either. We all have stuff running through our head. But that to me is the definition of health, is where you're able to go through your day, do what you want to do, and you feel like you have the capacity, the energy, the focus, everything to do that easily.
I love that. Yeah.
That's to me, that's the question, because we can all do it.
Sure.
Even when we're miserable.
Sure.
We just push through, but you shouldn't have to push through.
Yeah.
It should be easy.
No, love that. It's like the difference between just surviving day to day and thriving day to day. So
that's it.
That's right on.
I love that definition, because when we're always, talking to clients about exercises, we always get caught up again in like, what exercises shouldn't do, But in the end, what's the reason that people should exercise? So they can live the life they want to live. And again, that's one piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
But exercise can be a part of that. So I love that, you coming from a different, viewpoint and scope also seem to agree with that. It's not about like all these specific rules, but it's about living the life you want to live. And it just really stinks when you can't do that.
It does.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good, doesn't feel like you're living your full potential. So
that's it. Living your full potential.
Yeah.
That's it right there in a nutshell.
Well, Dr. Coop, thank you so much for your time, for joining us, for your expertise, for these very actionable items. I mean, this was awesome. This is just jam-packed of phenomenal content. So thank you for
stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome.
Very practical.
I had fun. It was good.
Right on. Well, for our listeners, who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that's maybe struggling with their digestion or has some symptoms that they feel are not being addressed throughout their day-to-day life? They don't feel like they're able to get through their day easily in doing the things that they want to do. Share this episode with them so they can hear Dr. Coop's suggestions and connect with him and hear this content to help improve your overall health and well-being. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps us so much get found by people who are looking for exercise and health-related information, especially when they're searching on podcasts. And it means the world to us when you leave us those rating and reviews. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.